Hello and welcome to today's class. For today we shall be discussing quadratic equation. What is quadratic equation? Quadratic equation is a polynomial of degree 2, meaning the highest power of the unknown is 2. The general form of a quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0, where a, b and c are constants and a is not equal to 0. If a is equal to 0, this quadratic equation will reduce to a linear equation because the first term here will be 0, and once this is 0, what we have will be bx plus c equal to 0, and as we all know, bx plus c equal to 0 is a linear equation. So for this to be a quadratic equation, a must not be equal to 0, b can be 0, c can be 0, but a must not be equal to 0. So we will consider methods of solving quadratic equation, and the first method we shall consider is factorization method. Under factorization method, we have a quadratic equation. We need to introduce one more term to make it 4 so that we can do factorization by grouping. So I'll give us one example and then I'll use that example to explain. Let's say we have an equation 3x squared plus 17x plus 10 equal to 0. How do we solve this? First, multiply this by this. If we do that, we are going to have 30x squared. Now we look for two factors of 30x squared such that when we multiply them, we will have this 30x squared back, and then when we add, we will have the middle term. We'll use the two factors to replace the middle term. So what are the two numbers we can multiply to have 30x squared? Let's think of numbers we multiply to give us 30. We have 1 and 30. We have 2 and 15. We have 5 and 6. We have 3 and 10. These are the numbers we can multiply to have 30. Now which of these numbers are we going to add to give us 17? If we add the first one, we'll have 31. So that's not it. If we add this, we'll have 17. If we add this, we'll have 11. If we add this, we'll have 13. So the only number there we can take is 2 and 15. Now let's use 2 and 15 to replace the middle term, meaning we are going to have 3x squared plus 15x plus 2x plus 10 equal to 0. From here we'll do factorization by grouping. We'll group them in twos. The first one, what's common between 3 and 15? 3. Between x squared and x, we have x. 3 cancel 3. X squared divided by x is x plus 15 divided by 3, 5, x cancel x. What's common between 2x and 10? Between 2x and 10 we have 2. 2 cancel 2, we have x. 10 divided by 2, 5 equal to 0. Let's look at these two expressions. What is common there? We have x plus 5. What's remaining here? 3x plus 2 equal to 0. I want us to note this. If the product of any two numbers is equal to 0, at least one of the numbers is 0. Meaning here, this is equal to 0, or this is equal to 0, or the two numbers are equal to 0. So we are going to write this as x plus 5 equal to 0, or 3x plus 2 equal to 0. And from here, we have x equal to, if you subtract 5 from both sides, you have minus 5 here as the value of x. Or if you subtract 2 from both sides, you're going to have 3x equal to minus 2, meaning x equal to minus 2 over 3. So the roots of this quadratic equation here are minus 5 and minus 2 over 5. We refer to these two values as the roots, or we call them the zeros of the quadratic equation. Why do we call them the zeros of this quadratic equation? Because if you substitute any of these two values into this expression here from here to here, just substitute in place of x, you are going to have 0. Or substitute this in place of x, you are going to have 0. So we call them the zeros of the equation, or we call them the roots of the quadratic equation. So we'll consider another example. Okay, so the second equation, we have x squared plus 5x plus 6 equal to 0. How do we solve this? I want us to note something. The coefficient of x squared here is 1, so we are not going to multiply by anything, we are just going to pick 6. Find two factors of 6, then when we add them together we have 5. The second thing I want us to note here is, if this value is positive, the two factors we are going to pick will all be positive or they will all be negative. Now what will determine if they will be positive or negative is this. We have already said the two numbers will all be positive or they will all be negative. If this, in addition to this being positive, is positive, then the two numbers are all going to be positive. But if this is negative, the two numbers are all going to be negative. So in this case, we have plus 5. So the two factors we are going to pick will all be positive. We are going to have x squared plus 2x plus 3x plus 6 equal to 0. So the two factors of 6 we are using here are 2 and 3. Let's factorize this. What's common here? We have x. X cancel this, we have x plus x cancel x, we have 2. What's common here? We have 3. 3 cancel 3, we have x plus 6 divided by 3, we have 2 equal to 0. Now let's look at these two expressions. This and this are common. So we have x plus 2. What's remaining here? X plus 3 equal to 0. And like we did in the first example, we are going to equate the two expressions to 0. Meaning here we have x plus 2 equal to 0 or x plus 3 equal to 0. If you subtract 2 from here, you're going to have x equal to minus 2. That's what we commonly refer to as crossing this to the other side. So if you cross this to the right hand side, it will become minus 2. And here, if you cross this to the right hand side, you're going to have minus 3. But the right thing to say there is add minus 2 to both sides. If you add minus 2 here, you have minus 2. If you add minus 3 here, you have minus 3. So the roots of this equation are minus 2 and minus 3. We'll still consider another example, example 3. We have x squared minus 5x plus 6 equal to 0. We earlier said if this is positive, the two numbers are all going to be positive or they are all going to be negative. In this case, this is positive and this one negative. So the two numbers are all going to be negative. Look at the second example. Here we have this one positive and this one positive. So the two numbers are all positive. Here this is positive, this is negative. The two numbers are all going to be negative. And the two numbers we're going to pick are minus 2 and minus 3. I want you to note this. Minus 2 minus 3 is equal to minus 5. 1 minus 2 times minus 3 is equal to plus 6. Let's factorize this. We have x here. X squared divided by x is x. This is how you divide it. Let me show you. If you have x squared, that's the same thing as x, and then you are dividing it by x. So this will cancel this, and you're going to have x as your answer. So x squared divided by x is x, minus x cancel x, we have 2. What's common here? We have minus 3. Minus 3 cancel minus 3, we have x, plus minus minus 6 divided by 3, 2, equal to 0. Let's look at the two expressions. We have x minus 2 common to the two expressions. So we pick what's left here, x, and what's left here, minus 3, equal to 0. Equate the two brackets to 0. We have x minus 2 equal to 0, or x minus 3 equal to 0. If you add 2 to both sides, you are going to have x equal to 2, or add 3 to both sides here, you have x equal to 3. So the roots of this equation are 2 and 3. Could we consider another example again? In this fourth example now, I want us to consider a situation where the constant term is negative. So we have something like x squared plus 5x minus 6 equal to 0. How do we solve this? Note here that this is negative, and if this is negative, the two numbers are going to carry two different signs. If the first is negative, the second will be positive. If the first is positive, the second will be negative. What will determine which is negative and which is positive is the middle term. If the middle term is positive, the bigger number will be positive. If the middle term is negative, the bigger number will be negative. So let's find the two factors. Here we are going to have plus 6 and minus 1. 6 minus 1 is equal to 5. 6 times minus 1 is equal to minus 6. So let's factorize this. What is common here? We have x. X squared divided by x is x. Like I showed earlier, x cancel x, we have 6 minus, what is common here, 1. There is not necessary writing this one, so I wipe it. Minus cancel minus, we have x, minus cancel minus, we have plus. 6 divided by 1, 6. Equal to 0. This and this are similar, so we have x plus 6. What's remaining here? X, and here, remember I wipe 1 from here. If the coefficient is 1, there's no point writing the 1, so we can just write it this way. But here we indicate the minus 1 equal to 0. Equate the first bracket to 0, x plus 6 equal to 0, or equate the second bracket to 0, x minus 1 equal to 0. And from here, if you subtract 6 from both sides, you have x equal to minus 6, or add 1 to both sides, you have x equal to 1. So the roots of the quadratic equation we have on the board here for number 4, the roots are minus 6 and 1. And we'll consider the last question under this section. X squared minus 5x minus 6 equal to 0. Remember here I say if this is negative, the two numbers are going to carry two different signs depending on which side the middle term is carrying. The middle term here is positive, the bigger number is positive. The middle term here is negative, the bigger number will be negative. So for the second case here, we are going to have x squared plus x minus 6x minus 6 equal to 0. 1 minus 6 is minus 5, and 1 times minus 6 is minus 6. Now let's factorize. Bring out x. You have x plus x divided by x is 1. Bring out minus 6. Minus 6 cancel minus 6, we have x. Minus cancel minus. 6 divided by 6 is 1. Factorize this again, we have x plus 1. What's remaining here? X minus 6 equal to 0. Equate this to 0, x plus 1 equal to 0, or equate this to 0, x minus 6 equal to 0. Subtract 1 from both sides. You have x equal to minus 1, or add 6 to both sides. You have x equal to 6. Therefore, the roots of the quadratic equation x squared minus 5x minus 6 equal to 0 are minus 1 and 6. Thank you.